Okay, so this is the floor plan that we created in the last video. So I've set up the sizes. This is about 16 meters from here to here. Before I actually start putting my windows and my doors in, I need to actually do a few other things. So I need to set the height of my room, and I need to make sure that the walls themselves go to that height. So what I mean by that is if I now look at it and I go to, say, the north elevation, I can see that on my drawing at the moment this line here, level 1, is basically where I want the roof to be, where I want the top of this room to be. It's only a single story room, but this one goes much higher, goes to another level beyond that, which is no good for what I want. So my walls are way too high. If I actually looked at this in 3D, we'll do that now, you can see that this is way out of proportion for a building. It looks like it's 2 stories high with no levels in between. So that's no good for us. So I'm going to go back into that north view again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my level here, and you'll see that as soon as I click on it I get a bunch of dimensions. So I'm going to come over to this one that says 4, and instead of having it 4 meters tall, I'm going to change it to 2.8. So my basically the ceiling height of my room is going to be 2.8 meters. However, I can still see that the actual building itself is going much higher than that. So my walls don't know where they need to stop. So what I need to do now is I need to actually go back into my ground floor view, and I need to select all my walls. You see they've gone blue. And on my walls I need to change the actual setting over here. Now the one that I'm concerned with is this one that says top constraint. So at the moment I know that the base constraint, where it starts from, is the ground floor, and that's the level we've called ground floor. But we want the top of the walls to basically go up to level 1. So I'm going to choose level 1 and apply that. Now if I go back into my north view, you can see that changed instantly there. So now my building is reflected in the correct height, and I can always check that visually now by going and looking at it in 3D by coming back up to this little house icon, and there we go. There's my start of my cafe, my restaurant, in 3D, showing that that height from top to bottom there is basically 2.8 meters. And my distance from corner to corner, the length of this whole building, is 16 meters. So later on I can start zooming in here to do things. However, the next thing I want to do is to start putting in some windows and some doors. So I'm going to do that, I'm going to go back into the plan view. I'm going to go back into this one for the ground floor. Now both windows and doors work in the same way. If you come up here and look at the top, so I'm still in my architectural tab. In architectural tab I've got one that says door, and I've got one that says window. Now it doesn't matter which way I do, so I'll start with doors first. But if I choose the door option, you can see that I get a whole different set of options coming up on this modify and place door panel. I also get this green information bar that's coming up, and I get in my properties this default. Okay, so at the moment this is the kind of door it wants me to put in. So if I just bring my mouse cursor over, you can see that at the moment it's showing that no entry kind of sign. If I actually put it onto a wall, that changes, and you can see that as I move it around I get a constant readout of where dimensions are in terms of trying to get things to be centered or put them in certain places. And if I flick it to the other side, you can see again that that wall moves into that door moves into a different position. It's worth saying at the same time as well, you can see if I put my door for instance over here, that door is going to open inwards and it's going to open to the kind of right. So you can see it's hinged on that top corner. So when the curved line comes flat, it means that that door's opening inwards and to the right. If I want it to open a different way, all I do is, before I've actually committed, I haven't clicked my mouse button yet, so this is still just hovering. If I press spacebar, spacebar changes the way that the door's facing around. So now that would be opening inwards but to the left side. So I can flick between the two using the spacebar. Now I can put these doors in. I'm going to put one in here for this toilet, opening that way, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come up and put another one in here. But I might decide that for, say, the main entrance here, I want a much bigger door than that, and maybe I want a bigger door over here to go into in and out of the kitchen. If I come back over to my properties panel for my doors, I can click on the down arrow. Now what I've got here is I've got different sizes, but they're still sizes for that particular door, this one which is called a single flush door. I want to have a bigger choice of range of ones than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick over to here where it says Load Family. And if I open the Load Family, click on the Load Family box, it opens up this internal library which comes with Revit. And you can see there's a whole bunch of folders in there, and there's one called Doors. If I go into Doors, I now get a whole range of different sorts of doors. And if I click on the doors, I can see that there are different types of doors. And even within those categories, there probably will be different sizes. Structural will give me a different sort of thing altogether. I'm not really interested in doing that, so I'm going to go back up a level. And I'm just going to have a quick look through here. So that's a double flush door. Double flush door might be what I'm going to use in a minute. Oh, glass one looks quite nice as well. So you can basically flick through and you can choose the sort of things that you want to use. Now these are called families. And families are basically have been designed by other people, and they are components that come in that can be added. So you're going to find later that you can put furniture in, and there's a whole range of different things that you can put in there. But for the moment we're going to go with, I'm going to try this double flush one. I'm going to say open on here. So you can see that's placed this over here now into my properties panel, which means now when I try and put this in, so here's my double doors now. I'm going to put them roughly in the middle there, opening inwards, and I'm going to click there. So there's my double doors, and I'm going to same thing over here. I'm going to come up, this time I'm going to put it a bit closer to this side, and I'm going to have a double door there opening inwards into what's going to be the kitchen. I can do exactly the same thing with my windows. I'm going to press escape a few times, come out of this now, back to my starting point. I'm in my architectural tab. This time I'm going to choose window. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I get a very similar tab that opens, except this one's saying modify and place a window instead of modify and place a door. I get a default one that's coming up in place with different sizes, but if I go for my load family, again I can scroll down this time, it's alphabetical, find windows. Inside windows I've got a whole bunch of different sorts of windows that I might want to put in. I'm not going to mess around too much and look at them. I'm going to go for this one now, which is a slightly bigger window. I'm going to say open. I've got various dimensions there that I can use. Now you need to look, these are in meters, so how big you want it is, you know, the height and the width and so on. I'm going to go for a fairly big one, so I'm going to go for maybe 1.8 meters wide by 2 meters high, so I've got plenty of light coming in. I'm going to say OK to that. Now this being an architectural program, it knows at what height within the wall that should go. What I mean by that is, you'll see in a minute, I'm going to place a few windows in. I'll put one, maybe I'll put two over here, one there, put one in by here. Okay, and I'll put a couple in over here as well, get plenty of light coming into my restaurant. Now in the same way, I can actually change these again afterwards by clicking on them, selecting them and moving them. So I'm not that worried at the moment whether I'm putting these in accurately or not, because I can always adjust them later. Put a couple in here as well. Okay, so there's my windows in, there's my doors in. All I want to do now is I'm going to check what it all looks like. I'm going to press escape and come out of that, and I'm going to click on my 3D view. And there you can see in my 3D view, I've got my windows gone in, and I've got my doors and so on. Now in this occasion, I've created windows that are too tall for my building. So I'm going to select all my windows and go for a slightly shorter model. Okay, the easiest way to do that is to basically select one of my windows. So I'm going to choose the window itself. I'm going to make sure that it's selected. There we go. So it's showing the preview of it over here. And I need to edit the type. So at the moment, the height of that is 2.23 meters, which is obviously too high. So what I can do is I can change one of them and they'll all change. So I'm going to try something like 1.6 meters. And I'm going to apply that. You can't quite see off the screen. I'll pull that up so you can see it. Click the apply button. And then you see that they've changed. And they're still probably too close to that ceiling height. So I'm going to go and change again. I'm going to make it maybe 1.2 meters and apply that and see what that looks like. That's a bit more useful for me. I'm going to say OK to that. And you'll see that it's changed all my windows in one go, because it's recognized them as a particular family, and that family shares some permissions on them. And I can see it in the 3D view. And again, if I hold down my mouse scroll button and my shift button at the same time, I can rotate around and I can have a look. I can even zoom in and see what these things would look like. And later on I'll be showing you how that you can go inside a particular room and look through, so you can see maybe from inside the kitchen what it would look like through into the dining room, maybe if the door was open, or if we put a little window in here or something.